afternoon. This is the workshop Tuesday afternoon, March 18th. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Everyone stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, which is back there in the dark. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This meeting was advertised in compliance with the Freedom of Information Act, and I would like to confirm that with Ms. Brock.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, and entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make the motion.
All right, we have a second? I'll second that. A second. Without objection, any objections? The agenda is approved. Do we have anyone sign up for public comment?
No, ma'am, we don't.
Okay. I'd like to make a brief public comment. This morning, the city of Beaufort and a lot of other people, historic Beaufort, had a grand celebration. This is the 250th anniversary of Marquis Lafayette, who came to Beaufort on this date, and they did a wonderful downtown event. There were, I counted 3 busloads of children, too, dressed appropriately, some of them, and a lot of local people. It was really a great event, and Miss Hannah was there, and Beaufort County media covered it, too. It was really, really a lot of fun to watch it, and he was dressed, and so was the mayor, as if they were from 18, whatever it is. So it was a lot of fun.
50 years ago.
I was not. I was in red, white, and blue. That's what I did, because France's colors are red, white, and blue too. So, and they handed out French flags. So it was quite an event. All right.
Can I make some of these announcements?
Yes.
Or ask me to? Mm-hmm. Okay. These are announcements for everybody. We have a workshop scheduled at 4 p.m. I forgot to write the date. April 8th. We're going to have a workshop with USCB right here in council chambers starting at 4 p.m. to talk about a plan that we might collaborate on. And on April 9th, a reminder, we have a budget workshop from 9 to noon. Mr. Moore is shaking his head yes. That's always exciting. I love that part. The chat with council, we got a little messed up because of LCOG. So this month's chat is March 27th. It's next week at Hilton Head Library. It is not this Thursday, and Hannah's going to go play in traffic because I gave her the wrong date. It's April 22nd at 6 p.m. at Beaufort Library. May is May 29th, 6 p.m. Bluffton Library. And June will be at St. Helena Library. And then we will not have a chat in July and August. I don't think anybody wants to talk to us then anyway. But please mark your calendar for April 8th, USCB, 4 p.m., right in council chambers.
June is what for St. Helena?
Yes,
What
June
date?
24.
Oh, okay.
I had to move it because of Juneteenth.
Yes.
Originally it was on there, so we moved it. And although I read some of these out at a council meeting, there was some confusion, so that's why I'm reading them again. And Ms. Brock sent to everybody their calendar invitations. So there you go. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.
Excellent.
And so,
What time on the 27th?
They're all 6.
6 o'clock?
All right. All right. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Moore.
Okay. Good evening, Madam Chair and Council. Tonight's workshop, we're going to have 2 main topics of discussion. One is strategies regarding the 2018 referendum. As we know, the 2024 sales tax referendum did not pass. There are a number of items still remaining from 2018 referendum that we want to bring to council for awareness, and then to develop a list of priorities that we would bring back to council in the form of a resolution, and with a cost and schedule. So it's very clear, what the direction is to staff regarding the remainder of the 2018 referendum. And then we want to, following that, get into a discussion about our options for a sales tax referendum in 2026. It's already 2025, and looking back on some of the schedules from previous places, the timeline's very short to get to something for 2026. So there are some options we will lay out with council, get some direction, and then most likely on that, we will need to come back for another discussion, perhaps on what we're going to do for 2026. So with that, we've got Jared and Hank here. I'm going to turn over to Hank, and then Jared's going to run through some slides, which you all should have. I think we're emailed out, and we'll run through that and then we'll go through questions as we go along.
Just briefly, we had 2 other people come in. Did you want to make any public comment or just here? Okay, thank you. Thank you. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Want to do it from here or there? There.
Do it from here.
Okay, I'm going to repeat some of the things he said just as an intro to Jared, but this is the first step in tackling the priorities that you put forth in the strategic planning session in February. And today we're going to seek guidance through the discussion that we're going to have. Jared has a lot of information that he'll put forth so that we can have open, good discussion to tackle 2 major things, as he said, as Mike just said. Number 1, focusing the efforts to successfully and impactfully close out the 2018 referendum. Ladies Island Corridor Plan has a long list of projects. Not all of them can be undertaken with the funds allocated, and today staff will dial in the remaining funds, recommend the most impactful projects to be undertaken with remaining budget in order to best improve traffic flow and safety. The goal with that session, as Mr. Moore just said, is to have consensus on these projects so that we can bring it back in the form of a resolution so we can target and complete them to close out that referendum. Number 2 is to discuss the county unfunded capital needs as well as municipality needs long-term if we were to decide to go a penny sales route for a capital project, and options of how we'd fund them. So we'd have well-documented and exhaustively discussed transportation needs. We know that. We've had lists of the past. I would assume if we went in the future, that list would have some of the core issues, but we want to do it in a different way to better our chances of success. On the capital side, we know that we have the need of a law enforcement center. We purchased the cooler track. We have set aside funds for the planning and cost estimating for that project. We'll talk in a follow-up session about there'll be the need to set aside some funds for the design and cost estimating if we were to ever go forward with a capital project, Penny, because there is some work to be done in order to approve a list. But other needs are Hilton Head Airport terminal expansion. We went over most of these in your planning session in February. The Defusky Island ferry ports, both on the mainland and on Defusky. New recreation facilities, of which we've had discussions many times in council and committee. Sports tourism facilities, that has also come up in council priority discussions. And expansion of facilities to serve our population as it continues to grow. And we need to do things, whether it's expansion of buildings, new locations. But Jared will go over these funding options, and our goal there is to confirm council direction on what to bring back with detail, action timelines, and best practices. But we've already had some conversations with other successful counties. One of them has direct input because York County has been successful, but I've had conversations with a couple others that have sent us some pictures that you'll see here today of some of the projects they've undertaken. But what we do know is that we need to better seek municipality and public input and buy-in in this process. We do know that we need to better educate the public on targeted projects and the beneficial impact that they'll have on their lives. And we'll bring back a real timeline. As Mike said, in a perfect world, we would already be several months into this, but we are where we are, but we're 8 months or more ahead of where we were last time. We were trying to do everything to better guarantee success or give ourselves a better chance. But the one thing we do need to do, regardless, if we were going to go forward with a penny, is establish a commission by this summer. And I know that whether we discussed a citizen oversight committee, but for capital projects, and we really would recommend that same thing for transportation if it was to happen, is to have this commission in place that vets these projects, builds these lists, goes around the county to seek input and consensus and buy-in from municipalities and other areas in the unincorporated county. But now it's time for Jared.
And we're going to let you talk, and we'll wait till the end to ask questions. Is that how you'd prefer? Or you want?
You can ask questions along
as we go? Okay.
I think the thought is this to be an open dialogue. So
Right.
I'm going to stand up here. We're going to transition to the screen. And these slides, you have them so you can follow along either on paper or on the screen. All right. So this is not going to be as hard as you first think it was. When we talked about 2018 and reprogramming these funds, essentially what we've done over the past couple months with 278, we are being fiscally responsible. We've got more project than we've got funding. We've got the same circumstance with Ladies Island and with the pathways. But as we start talking about it, it really is going to start setting itself up. The idea of having a citizens committee or even the mayors, I don't know that it's going to be as complicated as we first thought, and we'll talk through that. So, all right. I'm going to do this so I can see with you guys. All right, so this is the 120 million, so 80, 30, 10. And then at the bottom of the screen, we actually collected in total 146.5 million. All right. Out of that, we have, there was basically the tap didn't turn off right away. So that was why we've got that $26.5 million in overcollection. Right from the start, we knew that the pathways were underfunded, and council approved 15.5 there in the middle, 15.5 of that overcollection of the 26.5 towards pathways. In addition to that, we've been successful in obtaining $5 million in grants. So the pathways are funded now at 10 million plus 15.5 and the 5 million in grants for a total of 30.5. So out of the 146.5 that we collected, there's $11 million that is still unobligated for further appropriations, and we'll talk through that. Just keep that in mind. Similar to what we did on 278, we had a project, we scoped it, and we had some contingency, and I'll come back to that 11 million. All right, any questions on that? So 146 is what we collected, and we're about to go through what we've spent. So this is what we spent to date. You can see this is engineering. Most of that is DOT bills us, and then we send the money over there to them. Ladies Island Corridor, a little bit of construction, a lot of engineering, and the pathways, a little bit of construction, and a lot of engineering on the pathways. In total, out of $146 million, we spent $31 million. All right, what's remaining? So when you subtract those totals, out of the original amounts, we had 80, so we've got 60 left in 278. We had 30, now we've got 22 left, and we had 10 plus 15 plus 5, so we had a little over 30, and we have $26 million left. That one's a little confusing. Does everybody understand? We've got how we got the 26 there? All right, so if we assume that 278 is off to the side and is taken care of for the second, it still has its own course, but it's taken care of the second. We're really focusing on Ladies Island and the pathways. So when you add those two together we have $48 million available for expenditure. Additionally, we have that $11 million of unobligated, unappropriated funds. So in total, we have $58 million to put towards these remaining projects. Does that make sense? All right. So this is staff's version of, if we move forward and specifically start with Ladies Island, then we'll get to the pathways, what could that look like? So we already said that entirety, we started out with 30 million. We knew right out the gate that it didn't have right of way, it didn't have utility relocation. We've had cost increase over time, and the cost was up to over $70 million to do all the projects. We put $40 million in future sales tax. That didn't pass in 24, so we still have the 30, but we actually have the 22 million after what we spent. So the heart, I think anybody that drives on Ladies Island understands this. Is the main intersection at 802 and 21 needs significant improvement. Everybody agree to that?
You know,
By public.
802
Going towards St.
and
Helens.
Walgreens.
Oh, okay. In
right.
Walgreens.
Now, we did most of our work there, haven't we?
Well, there's been some work there, but that's been by Harris Teeter. So Harris Teeter's done some work, but we really haven't done much. We've done a right turn lane, there at Walgreens, that was part of the program. The right turn lane in front of Harris Teeter was part of the development, but that's really the only construction right there that's taken place so
So
far.
that was really done by Harris Teeter.
The right turn lane in front of their store was done by themselves. That's correct. Yeah, but it was in coordination with our plan. So what they built
Their money
was
was, it was their dime.
it was their dime,
Gotcha, okay.
but it was under our supervision. So it fits with what our plan were. Yep. So if we're trying to scale back the project, put it back into one bag, our thought is to focus on the heart. And we've got all these access roads, and if you think of the access road as the arteries, that's the bypass and all these bypasses. This is the main central heart. And what's envisioned here is to try to get 2 turn lanes going from St. Helena back to Ladies Island Bridge. So 2 lanes coming into town, which would create 2 turn lanes if you're headed off of Woods Memorial Bridge trying to turn north on the 802. So create that. Those are the largest turning movements in the entire circle. And then signal modifications, pedestrian modifications, restriping, also making sure that you don't have turning movements right there in the first 1,000 feet of the intersection for safety and flow. And then right in, right out access driveways. So that project's $4 million estimated costs is what we have pegged.
Councilmember McAllister.
Okay.
Give me 1 second.
Will he be able to see the slides?
Yeah, that I just shared, and he will.
Okay.
Well, while he pauses for a second, whenever you guys pass the initial ordinance to go out for referendum and in the resolution, the reason we were trying to further define the Ladies Island Corridor projects is because the referendum was based upon the Ladies Island Corridor study that has a really long list of projects that are not accomplishable. While the plan is good and all of it over time should be addressed, the money's not there to do the whole thing. So that's why we wanted to basically, on the pathway side, you adopted names of pathways. And so the goal would be that these projects are similarly listed, so both the Ladies Island Corridor and the pathways are defined the same way for clarity, for you and for staff as well as the public.
Right. Second, trying to address traffic and flow is on the main line is you go down towards Walmart. So as you're approaching Walmart, it goes from 4 lanes to 2 lanes, and it goes through the intersection and kind of have some congestion right there. So the thought process is to keep that 4 lanes all the way through the intersection until you get past the second driveway at Walmart going towards St. Helena, and then shrink it back to 2 lanes. So it's about 1,500 feet there that we would do widening and storm drainage improvements and signal improvements through that section. So that project is estimated about $8 million to do that project.
Let me ask you a question, Jared, on that. Is there any way that part of the plan is to allow the eastbound lane right at Walmart to be free-flowing without stopping at that light?
Yes,
Similar-
yes. So that would be, so you would have 4 lanes coming in from that side and 4 lanes coming from Beaufort side. So you would, before you get to Walmart is where you would see 2 lanes open up coming towards town. So you would have 2 lanes flowing through coming towards town. So what you're describing.
No, I'm going eastbound now. I'm going to Hunting Island.
If you're going to Hunting Island, you would have 2 lanes coming through the signal.
And one of those lanes remain free and not be subject to the traffic light?
Oh, no. Everything's got to run through the traffic signal.
All right. It doesn't happen on 170.
Why?
Oh, you're saying
Oldfield, okay.
because we've got a 4-legged intersection versus a 3-legged intersection. So we have the airport frontage road. So we have to stop traffic for those movements. There are some signals,
That's
but
true.
it's only 3. I know what you're saying now.
Okay.
Good
Okay.
idea. And then the last thing on the major 21802 is access to the Ladies Island Middle School. So this project's in progress. This is straightening up the Cougar Drive intersection and puts it out directly at the Gay Drive intersection with a stoplight controlled there.
It would be a stoplight.
It would
Okay.
be a stoplight. Yes, sir.
While I understand all of these because we have been intimately involved, people online are going to be looking at this maybe for the first time. And if we're talking about buy-in, if we're talking about telling people, okay, this is what you passed in 2018, this is what we can do, picture is worth 1,000 words. Besides explaining it in writing, I think you need pictures to show them what's there, what's this going to look like when it's done.
I think that's a good point, and when we come back with this resolution, we would have it accompanied with that.
With some actual pictures. Great.
Yeah.
I do have a picture at the very end.
See,
Oh, yeah, you know it intimately,
Yeah,
but there are
yeah.
even people within your district that are going to look and say,
what are
what's
you
he talking about?
Yeah.
So those are the things that we suggested, just, you know what, let's see where our money can take us, and it fixes pinch points. It's not, obviously, we're not widening the entire thing, we're not making improvements, we're not doing pathways down all the 21, we're not doing street light, or street light, streetscaping, just these targeted areas.
Okay, so that's 17 million of the 22 and a half that's
Correct.
available.
So now we're going to focus on the access roads on Ladies Island. So Hazel Farm and Gay, so on the opposite side of Ladies Island Middle School, it goes across, and
Your screen.
Well, okay.
all right, so Hazel Farm and Gay goes across the street, and right now Hazel Farm is a dirt road, and it connects to 802. So this would be paving that section of dirt road. Right now what's planned for is a whole streetscape project, enhancement project, all the way from 802 to 21, that whole bypass. In the middle is a roundabout, and then continues with pathway and sidewalk one on either side all the way up to 21. What we would propose here is to pave the dirt road section, so we have a fully paved section. We would signalize at 21 and Gay that we've talked about already, and then finish the design improvements for pathways, but not necessarily build those. Also included, which I thought we had on here but not, is the signal improvements that when you go between Gay and Hazel Farm, where they kind of intersect, there's an apartment complex that's a little wonky, so some intersection improvement right there in the middle of that road. So really pave the road, the dirt road portion, fix the intersection in the middle, stoplight at the end, and complete the design to shelve if we want to come back at a later date and do pathways and sidewalks on the exterior.
You talking about a stoplight at 802 and Hazel Farm, as well as
So
Gay and 21?
they're not at 802 at this moment in time. If warranted, we could do that at a later time, but there would be a signal at 21 side and Gay, where the middle school aligns.
You don't anticipate traffic, once that road is improved, a lot of flow of traffic there?
It could. So we could come back and evaluate, and if so, the great thing is we have some other funding inside of impact fees that's established for signal installations. So if we make this improvement and then see that at 802 needs a signal at a later date, we can come back and accomplish that beyond the funding that we have planned here. But
Would you also put a turning lane there coming off of 802 into Hazel Farm, or is this going to be?
potentially, that can be looked at in the design. That's not a major cost, so we can look at that, whether that's needed as part of this.
Yeah, that would take a lot of traffic off of 802.
Yeah, and it would take traffic off the signal that we're trying to.
Yeah.
That signal is really the main thing. That if anything we can take off, the better. All right, so that's the first access road. Other access road, kind of catty corner, opposite direction, is Sunset and Miller. So we all heard Sunset and Miller. We heard the voice of the community say, just take that project away.
You heard them right.
We heard them. Here's what I'd like to offer. They've also, if everybody's not aware of this, reached out to Representative Erickson to coordinate with DOT. And really what their complaint is in the community, specifically Sunset, but Miller too, is speeding. They don't want speeders, and they don't want more people using the roads in their area. So what she suggested to DOT is to put 3 intersections on Sunset that are three-way stops, 3 different ones of those.
Okay. Three-way stops.
And in order to do that, you would need to reduce the speed limit to 25. So DOT's kind of went back, they've evaluated. they're okay with some of it, but not all of it. So what they're okay with, and I think this threads the needle between what the community said don't do anything and what they really have been asking for is less speed and don't send more traffic, is to do a 3-way stop at Sunset and Miller. So straighten that up. Instead of a roundabout, that's what they really hated, was the roundabout. Straighten it up, but make it a raised intersection, so it's like the whole intersection comes up, and so you got to slow down to get across the intersection. We can only do that if the speed limit is dropped from 30 to 25. So that's why the coordination with DOT, we're kind of threading the needle. They've given us a head nod on that. Yes, ma'am.
David couldn't be here today. He's up in North Carolina, but he said he's heard from his constituents and they like that idea. And
Okay.
Yep.
And so to do that, and then other traffic calming on Miller. So similar what we can do if we can do speed humps or anything else, and then simply resurface. Even we've had communications about redoing the pathway. There's an existing 4-foot pathway. We were planning for a sidewalk and a pathway and storm drainage improvements and right-of-way acquisition. They don't want that. We've asked, what about replacing the sidewalk as is? And we've even heard no to that. So just a 3-way stop, the traffic control on Miller, and then resurfacing the roads altogether, Sunset and Miller. So that has a cost of about $2 million. And lastly, access.
Would you in doing Sunset, even improve bikeways, or they don't want that either?
We haven't got feedback that they want bike paths either.
I mean, just widen the highway just for bike.
So there's potential. When you widen the highway, it also makes you feel like you want to drive faster. So it's a kind of catch-22.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
So the suggestion is, from trying to piece together what we've heard and what they want and what they really don't want, is the 3-way stop control with a raised intersection in coordination. And we think we can do that with DOT. And then the last one is Airport Frontage Road. So we've already completed the first section, but phase 2 is behind Taco Bell and gets to the next road. Essentially that goes through Marsh, so it's going to be very challenging and expensive, but we've got the design that's already significantly underway. And so the thought process was spend the remaining amount, $150,000, in the design to finish that, have a project that's sitting there, so if there is funding at a later date, we could implement it, but for the little bit of cost to finish the design. So all in all, that access road, $7 million. So when we add the main road at 17 plus 7, that gives us $24 million. So a little bit more. What did we have, 22? 22 and a half, 22.7. So trying to fit the projects to the need and scale it back down, this was kind of what we gave as a first shot as a right sizing on Ladies Island. And let me pause there, and what other kind of feedback?
Does the airport frontage phase 2 connect to Lost Island Road?
It does,
Okay.
but we
just
would
be
just do the
design.
design for now.
Okay.
That's right.
Just design.
What's the estimated cost of that?
Of the construction or the design?
Not the design. You said you got
The construction, it's in the $1.5 million, $2 million range, because it's going through significant wetlands and fill and wetland mitigation cost.
So what I like about this is it addresses specific needed projects in an area north of the Broad who said no on this latest referendum because they didn't feel they were going to get anything out of it. Now they can see, touch, feel, hear. This is exactly what you're going to get.
Yeah, it's very targeted.
Just one more, on clarity's sake alone, you talked about 11 million overage. Is that going to be broken out by the 3 highlighted projects, Corridor, Ladies Island, et cetera? How do you envision that working?
So the thought process is that $11 million, so we're trying to right-size the projects and put them into the remaining buckets. So we've got 22 million and 26 million, and try to get as close with these priorities as we can. And if we need to steal some out of the 11 to get to there, like this one is stealing a couple $1 million, and then leave the rest of it kind of sitting over there, because it's going to take time for us to build these and prices and kind of contingency. Is the thought process.
So don't lose your thought. So the 11 will have to go toward these 3 projects.
It has to, yeah, it has to go towards one of the 3, the bridge, the Ladies Island, or pathways. It can't go outside of sales tax projects.
Is the bridge, is the 278 corridor part of the bridge? Is that?
It could go towards that, but right now we feel where that project sits, we have its own built-in contingency built in that. So now we're kind of building in contingency for these other 2 projects, Pathways and Ladies Island, with that overage.
I just want you to take a note, though, as we go forward, if it's available or feasible, Sea Pines needed some money to do some work on the circle.
So we wouldn't be able to do that with this money.
Okay, we wouldn't be able to take some of that. Okay.
No, that's beyond the termini as listed in this sales tax.
Appreciate it.
Get it from the city, get it from the town.
You
Excuse
already
me?
have a circle. You don't need another one, Tom.
No, no, listen, I understand. I'm just trying to make sure we cover all the grounds. Thank you.
See if this is going to work. You'll see a slide here in a couple minutes that will talk about what the number is to be reserved as contingency. Just like in the bridge project, there's a reserve. There also needs to be a reserve here as things change over time.
Makes sense. Good. Okay.
All right, any more discussion in general?
I have another question.
Yes, ma'am.
Back to 802 and 21, they're state and federal highways?
They are. US 21
And
is,
we, Beaufort County taxpayers, paying to repair them.
that's the only road out of this entire set that is local is Hazel Farm, which is a county-owned and maintained dirt road, and Airport Frontage Road, which we just constructed brand new, now belongs to the city.
We've been doing that since the history of time, paying for what the federal government or our state government should have done.
And in
We shouldn't
the
be doing that.
in the
Sorry, but we
referendum,
should.
those projects were specifically
I know.
addressed as
I
part of
know.
that for state roads and
Right,
highways. So we have to stay within the bounds of the 2018 referendum
right.
in terms of
For
how we
this
allocate
time,
the funds.
This time, but if we do one next year, we don't. Right? Yeah.
It depends on what projects we select.
Jared,
We're going to have a serious conversation with our senator.
right. For me, I'm like Joe. I need to be I need to be visual.
Absolutely,
So
understand.
Can you give me where in Beaufort we have a raised bed? I mean, a raised bed. I'm in the garden now.
I can tell you, Parker's in Port Royal,
Parker's in Port Royal.
across from the fire station.
What's that one?
That's a
It's-
raise.
That's a raised bridge. They call it a bridge, right, Terry? It means
Across
that
Paris
you
Avenue.
go up and down, and it slows you
Like a
down.
bumper stop?
It's not a real bridge. It's just, it's in the
Oh,
road
it's a
itself.
speed bump?
What
It's
you're
a big
doing is
speed
you're
bump.
approaching it, you have to go up to go across.
Yeah.
So-
And that requires you to slow down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It
Okay.
works.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And that's more of a speed hump. This
Pretty big, though.
so another good example. I don't know if anybody's been here in Columbia, right beside the Coliseum, where the basketball Coliseum is. You get down and there's some different type of pavement, and you go up, and that's where all the kids are walking across the intersection, because you're going up and you have to slow down, and then you get across the intersection and
Yeah.
you come back down.
Okay.
That would be what it,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you.
It would be kind of new to the area, but it's something that we could do. All right.
Fly over it.
We're going to move on. All right, we got a lot of ground to cover.
Yep.
All right.
Well, he clicks that, it would be at the stop signs, right?
Right.
Correct.
Yeah, so you'd have to, it'd be stopped so you didn't.
All right, pathways. So this is the 24 pathways as listed in sales tax, all right? I'm not going to read them. We've all seen this list before. All right, this, I'm going to explain a little bit the colors. So this is staff's version of trying to have something to talk about on how we're gauging priorities, how we're going to get to a prioritized list, okay? So at the bottom is 3 footnotes. So the first one is a resolution. We said at start we didn't have enough money to do 24 pathways, so we said 14 pathways. That was that resolution we keep referring to, the prioritized 14, okay? The second footnote is our BC Connects plan. So this happened in 2018. We did a countywide master plan on our pathways after that. So some of these pathways from 2018 didn't even show up on that because they weren't considered to be regionally significant. And then third is direct access to a school or park. So that's a common theme. You see that in a lot of grant applications, safe routes to school and stuff like that. So what we did here is to show the different colors. The yellow are the pathways that meet all three of those criteria. The blue or magenta, whatever color that is, other color, is a 2 out of the 3 of those criteria that we have there on the bottom. And then all the others are just, they either met 1 or none of those criteria. Okay, does that make sense? This was just something for us to kind of guide this discussion that we're about to have, all right? Other than that, it's kind of meaningless, but this is, all right. And then the strike through, those are the 3 pathways that we have completely completed. So Laurel Bay, Bluffton Parkway, and Reba Road. All right, tracking?
Yep.
All right.
Wait, can we go back to, what is Lake Point Drive and Old Miller Road?
So
EC Connects plan, what is that?
So that's a section in Bluffton. There's a donut hole down in Bluffton between Sandy Point and what's the other neighborhood, Jennifer? Old Miller or Miller subdivision. Anyhow, off of
Hampton Lakes.
So there's subdivisions that butt up to one another, and there's a section of road that's missing and pathway that's missing, and that was because the pathways or the road's not there, the pathway is not there either. But all right,
Jared, I remember Mike Covert taking off one of these pathways. Which one was that?
I think it was that Lake
Miller,
Point,
right?
and I think it's Lake Point Drive and Old Miller, I believe. Because again, there's not even a road
Wants to go.
that connects the 2 subdivisions. All right. So this is us putting together a couple different priorities, and we're going to bring them back to a close. These are priority 1s nearing construction. So other than Burnt Church, I'll talk about Burnt Church specifically. But these are under design and are close to going out to bid, most likely under construction or in construction this year. So All Joy Road, Salem Road, Stewart Point, and Depot are all very close to, so those should be priorities because we're almost there. Let's continue moving forward on those. Burnt Church Road, this one's a little bit different. This was, when we initially did comments on all of the pathways, this was one of the highest ranked pathways. And what we did is we said because it's so high priority, there was also a road project that we wanted to do to widen it from 2 lanes to 3 lanes. There's a school on, or 2 schools connected to that area. And so we wanted to do the pathway and connect it to the road project. However, the planned funding for the road that we were intending for is no longer there. And part of that was through old impact fees, and part of that was through the passage of the sales tax from last November. Both of those funding options are no longer there. And so now we have a design that has it married, the pathway and the road, and we essentially, if we want to build the pathway, we've got to take those back apart. So we've spent money on that design, and now we're going to have to, if we choose to move this forward, and this is a discussion point for you guys, to move Burnt Church forward, we're going to have to design a pathway separate from a road project. So we think, because we've heard so much about Burnt Church, that makes sense, even though we've had some funding towards a different design, to start the design to build the pathway and deliver the pathway that the people commented on. Any comments on that before I move forward?
I just want to let you know that I received the Bluffton Sun in the mail today. I haven't had a chance to read it, but it talks about the All Joy sidewalk.
Yeah, so All Joy is nearing, probably in the next couple months, to be out to bid.
Oh, okay.
So that one's really close. We had some grant funding that we got last year. We had to do a couple extra things, but it is very close to going out to bid.
Is Burnt Church going to go all the way down from All Joy Road all the way down to the Bluffton Parkway?
Yes.
Oh, it is?
That's correct.
Can we take our golf carts on it?
Well, not supposed to.
You're too
So
far away.
we just need some more input
I
on
can
whether
cut through and get on that, yeah. 'Cause
to wait.
I have constituents that take Burnt Church, they get on Burnt Church Road and they take the golf carts down to Old Town.
But there's no money to redo Burt Church.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
yeah,
in
it's
general,
dangerous.
the
They
road
do
project,
46.
Oh, I haven't seen them on 46.
Oh,
but I've seen
yeah,
Burnt Church.
I have. Oh, yes. They go to restaurants. They come from,
Across the road, or you go
across the road,
So
come
when
down
is
46.
Burnt Church going to be
Jared,
done?
so
I've
there's
seen
no
them go
money
all
to
the
do
way to
Burt
the
no, so
circle.
the road project for Burnt Church is in the $8 to $10 million range, and we don't have a funding source for the road project along with the pathway project. So if we want to build the pathway project, we have pathway funds in the sales tax. We would just need to specifically do pathway and not pathway and road that we were hoping to accomplish two birds with one stone. So, yes, sir.
Well, I like everything that we're doing so far. I'm just going to make a comment. What you said was yellow met all the criteria, 1, 2, and 3. Magenta or purple met 2 of the 3, and white didn't meet any of them. And yet, All Joy, Salem, Depot are on priority 1, and none of them meet the criteria.
Yeah.
So that's going to be some questioning by the public.
Well, and so we just made that criteria up today for this discussion purpose because some of these projects were already tackled in resolution, and so we started working on them out the gate, but we didn't have the BC Connects plan finished or different things like that. So don't let the colors and the footnotes completely, because we've got a lot of these, like I said, All Joy is really close to being out in the bid.
As long as we can explain it to the public that makes sense, we're going to be
Sure.
okay.
Sure. Okay, let's go to priority 2.
Mine and Mark's. It's-
So priority 2, these are under designed fairly far. They're probably nearing close to right-of-way plans, so they're 50 to 60% design. And so they're not quite ready for construction, but they're the next group. All right, so we've got a lot of good coordination on both of these projects and design and community input. So the thought was keep those projects moving forward. All right. The next one is priority 3. So on these, we have a little bit less design, but still some design, probably 30% design on some of these. And you can see we're starting to say portion on some of this. So as we're getting down, we're getting really close, and we'll get to the next slide or two on the funding available. And so some of these projects, it makes sense, like, for instance, Joe Frazier is 3 miles long. We definitely have some issues for pedestrians on segments, but maybe not the entire segment. So what we're suggesting is let's do Joe Frazier, but let's do a particular segment of Joe Frazier, and the same thing with some of these other roads. So Broad River Boulevard and Riley Road, it actually is at the bottom of Joe Frazier and in front of a school. That one makes sense. It hits all 3 marks and is moving forward in
The
design.
one, Shanklin Elementary, that in abroad, or is
It's,
it? No, not
I don't know the
Shanklin.
name. What's the name of the school?
Broad River Elementary.
Broad River Elementary.
Broad River Elementary, right, okay.
Okay, so from Middle Road is pretty close to 60% in design. Yep.
And then Broad River Drive, it's the portion that leads up to the Montessori.
Yes, so Broad River Drive at the bottom, so that's in Shell Point, and that would be from Shell Point Boulevard to the Montessori School. That would be the portion that we would target, not the portion, the curvy portion all the way back to Food Lion.
Except the worst speeding part is the part,
The curvy part?
yeah.
Well, so this is the discussion. This is why we want reaction, and if we're not in the right area, please tell us so we can react, and then we can mark up and come back.
I would have a meeting with them and see if I had to choose which, I can do
Okay.
that. If we
Yep.
got time,
Okay,
I can do that.
that works.
Jared, if you would, go back to the Joe Frazier discussion.
Yep.
You said that there's some segments of it that is problematic as far as pedestrians are concerned,
Yep.
and you're proposing to doing a portion of it, but not the entire?
Yeah, there's a map at the very end. Let me see if I can find it. It'll describe it a little bit better.
Good pictures of these.
Yeah, pictures are worth 1,000 words.
Yes, sir.
Here you go. It's on the screen. He added it.
Okay.
Nothing south of the project.
All right, so on Joe Frazier and Burton Wells and Pine Grove, so this is Habersham right here, and this is Cherokee Farms Road, and this is the traffic circle and Laurel Bay. So what we're saying would be probably go from the second driveway back to Burton Wells. So don't do this portion and don't do this portion up here. And then let's do all of Burton Wells. That's our rec center. So and we own that right away, so that is a plus. This is county road. So all of Burton Wells, and then Pine Grove. Let's do this section of Pine Grove to get this group of people to a destination, and then let's not do this center section. And then this is Food Line right here. And let's do this section where people reside to get to them to a destination, which is Food Line. So what we're saying is people aren't going to walk 3 miles to get to a destination, but give them a mile or so they can get to an area of interest, i.e. the rec center or
Can you point
food.
out the, where Shanklin School is? It's at the other end.
So Broad River, where's the school?
It's all the way at the other end.
Yeah, all the way to the top.
Where the
Shanklin
roundabout is.
School? Oh, it's right. It's up here off of
No, it's all the way down.
But
where
Yeah, near the base.
it's off. Y'all might have to help me.
It would be,
Battery Creek's grass way out.
it'd be all the way
There's
to the
a
top.
there's an elementary school right here off of the circle.
That's Shanklin.
That's Shanklin.
That's it. Okay.
I've never seen anybody walking Habersham, but
Well, so right
I
here,
don't, I mean, that's not my district, so I'm not.
right here, and Chairman or Mr. Passman, I know we've had a lot of feedback
Oh, yeah.
on Joe Frazier,
Yeah,
and it's been in this segment where we've had the most
Right.
feedback.
And this is Habersham, but this is.
Right. This is a different.
Oh, okay.
It's
got
different
a couple of
housing.
This is different type of housing than right here. And then the same thing, this housing is similar to this housing right here. So there's a lot of walkers here and here.
Are they walking to where?
Right now, I don't know exactly.
I just asked.
They're walking on a road without any
Yeah.
pedestrian facilities.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm being devil's advocate. If they're going to Burton Wells, great. I don't know.
Well, all I know is there's nothing going on right here, and there's nothing going on right here. So even if they're just walking back and forth to houses,
Yeah.
at least if we provide them space to walk, that's the thought process with these projects.
certainly would be an opportunity to have them be able to go to the Burton Wells and the center there.
Yep. The other thing, as we're scaling back the projects, when we went into this, we said we're going to do a 10-foot pathway on every road. That's really challenging.
It is.
And it's just not appropriate and we've run into that in several neighborhoods. So I think another thing that we can look at is this is probably more of a sidewalk, a 5 or 6 foot sidewalk. And on Burton Wells, where we have available property and we have recreation opportunities on both sides, maybe that's an 8 or 10 foot pathway on Burton Wells. And then back on Pine Grove, again, this is a smaller cross section. Maybe this is back to a 5 or 6 foot pathway. So those are other areas for us to stretch that dollar in order to get the pathways completed. All right.
6 would be more amenable rather than a 5, either 6 or 8. So if you're not going to do the 8, then I would say go to the 6.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. All right. So this is I'm gonna get back to the pathways or the priorities.
Thank you, Jared.
Jared, is there a place on the website the public can go to look at BC Connect's plan? I mean, I know what it is, but we keep referring to it. I'm not sure the public knows what it
Yeah,
is.
it's on the website. It's either under the engineering plan or the
Division 2, it used to
or
be
it's
there.
under the planning department.
It used to be there. I don't know.
It's one of it's either engineering or planning departments. It's somewhere.
It's somewhere, yeah.
We can find it and let you know.
It's just that it's cited everywhere and people don't know what it is or have a misconception of what it is.
Yes.
I.e. it's state funded, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, so just to hit that real quick, BC Connect's plan, this is a master plan that says that we did throughout the county and essentially said if we were to have pathways strategically, where do we want them? And essentially what it says, we have a spine on 170 and Bluffton Parkway and the Spanish Moss Trail, and then we have rib cages off the main road and then smaller ones, and kind of that's the prioritized. It does not have funding attached to
So
it.
because we have a tab within the county website for the 2018 referendum, maybe there could be
We could load it up there. Yep.
put it up there.
All right, let's get to these other priorities and then focus the discussion back. All right, so priority 4, these are some that we have a little bit of design. We've got some window design. We've got some left or right side of the road design. And we've also got some pushback on a couple of these. So just listing them, some of them still are hitting a couple of the highlights, but we put them in this list because of those various reasons. So not to read them all, but you can see them there. If any, let me just hit a couple. So Old Salem, or Meridian, everybody knows where Meridian is. It has its challenges. Old Salem and Burton, we already said a priority is Salem, and these three kind of connect to one another. They're up off of 170, so let's hit one. The same thing at the bottom, Ulmer and Shad, they're connect off of Burnt Church and Alljoy. If we're already hitting those two, then we're kind of good in the region, and the others there. And then lastly, these are further out. These, we really haven't got a whole lot started. They weren't on the prioritized 14. They don't really hit a lot of those 3 criterias, and that's where those landed. All right, so this is just getting back to the original 24 and the priorities that we just went through. Staff, that exercise 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we just kind of listed them so you could see them again. And then I'm going to take that to the next slide and put numbers to that. So essentially, we're going to see that 1, 2, and 3 is where the money stops. All right. Mm-hmm. So I took the priorities off, but it's 1, 2, and 3 is what these priorities are, and you can see the funding amount for each one of those. And then when you add up all that, that totals up to be about $28 million. And from the slide at the very beginning, we said we had 26 and some change available, $26 million left for pathways. So it's just a little bit over that. That kind of eats in a little bit to that $11 million unobligated funds. So back to how much we had. We started with 58.7 that we had available, including the 11 million. We said 24 and change for Ladies Island. We just said 28 for pathways, and that gets us to 52. So when you subtract 58 minus 52, you get a remainder of 6 million. And if you think about that, that's kind of like a 10% contingency. So 10% of 58 million, roughly. So we don't know which project will overrun. These are estimates, and we're going to refine that and bring information. But we wanted you guys to react, whether you like this road, take it off. Ms. Howard, you mentioned Broad River Drive.
I'm going to have a meeting with the public there because they're not going to understand why they're only getting a portion of it. Sure. So, and I don't know why that portion was selected because the traffic I see there comes from Food Lion off of the 4-lane. But I'll have a meeting with them and see and put some stuff out. But I need some maps showing what the options are.
Yeah, we have maps at the end that highlight it, but we can show more as far as what the maps are and segments and cost and stuff.
This is my last comment. Going back, not my last, but Burnt Church Road, it concerns me that we're not doing the road, but we're going to do the sidewalk. Are we going to be fixing sidewalk when we do the road?
Yes.
It's a chicken and the egg.
It
I
is
don't
a
know.
chicken and egg situation. So right now, the sidewalk is attached to the road expanded. So we have 2-lane road. We're expanding it to get to 3 lanes, and we have limited right-of-way because there's stuff on each side. So we have curb and gutter in that planned 3-lane road and sidewalk and pathway on each side. So everything is, there's no grass strip, no anything. If we do a pathway, we have more available right-of-way, and we're not doing storm drainage, we're not doing curb and gutter, so we would have a grass strip between the edge of road and whatever size pathway we install on one side of the road. So it would essentially be a redesign because we can't cut and just do the sidewalk as part of the road that is not expanded.
I just got to throw in Meridian Road. It's not on the.
What's your thoughts on Meridian? Yay, nay, part of it? What kind of feedback on Meridian?
Well, I think, when I first heard of Meridian Road, I would love for it to go all the way down. There's resistance, et cetera, so I'm not, and I think there's also the width of the pathway could be reduced to go all the way down. I'm not too sure. It's still a conversation, but if nothing else, I sure would love to have Meridian to tie into somewhere at Beaufort High to connect to, just me now.
Yeah, sure.
To connect to, what's the park? Crystal Lake.
Crystal Lake.
Crystal Lake?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Love to see that happen.
Okay.
Yeah. And it would tie the schools in there as well. Yeah.
What other pathway comments? That was us kind of offering up starting point.
When the Meridian Road was first, discussed, there was a lot of people didn't want it, but
Yeah, there's a lot of pushback, and all I'm saying is that, that's it would be a nice pathway down all the way to 802 from Sea Island Parkway, but if nothing else, connect the school and go into Crystal Lake. And I think that would connect back to 802. Yeah.
So Jared, we had, all of the pathways were part of the referendum. 14 were set specifically of the final list that you have there. How many of those are part of the 14?
I didn't make that comparison, but I think out of this list, a large majority of those are already included on the 14. Yeah.
Just a further comment on pathway along Meridian Road.
Mm-hmm.
It also connects to Whitehall Plantation Road.
That's correct.
Park. So, that's the connection, which goes downtown.
Yep.
Yeah.
I get that.
Okay.
Jared, I support your proposal for the Joe Frazier portion and the Pine Grove Burton Wells. I think that's appropriate.
Okay, good. Thank you for that feedback.
Yeah, the same thing with me, that portion of Joe Frazier.
Yeah, you've heard a lot about Joe Frazier, so,
Yeah,
okay.
anything we can do on Joe Frazier is beneficial.
All right.
Before you move on to the looking ahead, is that where you're going to go next, Jared?
Yeah, so that's really 2018, and Mike and Hank jump in. Do you feel like we've got enough comments and feedback to bring something back, or where do you think we need to go?
I think we do, although I noticed at least one member said they would like to have a meeting within their districts. So I don't know if anybody else.
I can do it, some of it through their Facebook pages too, if I get a map that I can post to get their feedback. Yeah.
We have one comment as well for you to think about.
Sure.
Are you set? I don't want to, on behalf of 40,000 residents that have paid this overage, I want you to come back to us and show us what can be done with that money if it's portioned out equally, with the pathways or right around the bridge, if there's roadways there that have to be cleared up, cleaned up, fixed up. I think we got to look at that as well. Just not, I'm not saying, I'm sharing is caring, I get all that, but, $11 million is taken. If it's going to be 1/3, maybe there's roadways around that bridge that we were looking at, maybe getting, if there was extra money.
Well, it'd have to be in the termini of the bridge, so from Moss Creek to Spanish Wells.
Well, listen, think
Squire
about it.
Pope.
Think
Squire
about
Pope.
it. We're looking at going back to SIP now, and we're going to look at some off-ramps and on-ramps. That may be
It could be.
something we're going to look, please keep that in mind for that. Appreciate it.
Real quick, Jennifer Bragg, she's here.
To answer the question about the priorities,
Okay.
Say that one
that's it.
again, Jennifer? So Joe Frazier,
Frazier Road, and then Pine Grove Road in Burton.
But the rest of the list as shown is on the 14. So thank you
Okay.
for that.
Actually, that's very informative.
All right.
Okay.
But they were all in the original.
They were all,
Yeah, they were all
on
in
the
the
original
original.
24.
Right.
And
Again, a picture is worth 1,000 words, explaining what we're going to do in these areas, I think is going to go a long way to getting community support.
Mr. Moore, when we met with the officials from the municipalities, we said we'd go back to them. I'm going to assume all of these, or most of these, are in unincorporated
Well,
Beaufort.
that's a great question.
Right.
Jared didn't hit on that point, but I think for the most part, these are within the city of Beaufort.
yeah, the Burnt Church is the only one that has connectivity to Bluffton, and then none of the pathways are in Hilton Head, and then the Port Royal is Rebo Road, and
Depot is
Depot
city.
is in City of Beaufort. So the majority of the ones that are affected are in City of Beaufort or unincorporated.
I just wanted to be sure because we did talk to them about that.
We did, and I think going back and looking, it really only affects city of Beaufort.
And even Ladies Island is City of Beaufort.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, very good.
Just a resolution?
Really?
Just for those reference that I had.
I'm just jumping up here to give Jared a chance to sit down for a minute and to kind of summarize Phase 2. If we're done with that Phase 1, I think we've got good marching orders to go forward. Jared, take a drink of water. But the second priority, and this would your slides start with looking ahead, again, is we have this list, and I'll just repeat some of them again, from the list of transportation projects that we've beaten up and down and sideways. And if we were ever to do another transportation penny presentation, we will talk about this in a minute, maybe it's a little different. Maybe it is some different projects. Maybe it's focused in certain areas. Maybe we prove ourselves by knocking out some safety, surface, and main corridor projects. And we need to look at this project, meaning the penny sales project. It's this big. Maybe we focus. If you guys decide to go big, we can do that too, but we want to put it all out on the table to give, again, the best chance of success. And maybe that requires multiple over time, but that's for you guys to discuss here in a little while. But other projects in the capital side, again, law enforcement center, airport, ports, recreation facilities to include tourism, sports tourism, and expansion of our facilities. That's, just so you know, it's not just a county thing, right? So we want to establish this commission early, because in every county that's been successful in passing these referenda, they have established the committee early and held meetings with not just with municipalities, but also areas of unincorporated Beaufort County to make sure to get their input, to get their proposed projects, so we can get the proper list that has support of people moving forward, so we can show the impact on people's lives. And again, it's reaching out early, and it's early for us. It's not early for some of the other examples that will go into a future meeting. We can show timelines of other counties. But we know that we're behind a little bit of some of the best practices, but we're well ahead of what we've done before. But we want to, again, if we decide to move forward with something, there's going to be some urgency on establishing this commission, because they're the ones that do the heavy lifting in engaging these communities. I mean, you're all going to be there, but they're the ones that then bring back that list that's been vetted and designed and we're ready to go, that go on a referendum. And so, you ready to get back up? He's in great shape, but nobody should stand there for that long.
All right, round two. All right. So these are some questions that we have in front of us. Is South Carolina growing? Yes, absolutely, right?
Special Jasper, right?
All right, yes, all right. Is our infrastructure failing? This is not our pictures, by the way. Just want y'all to know that. But we all have stresses on our infrastructure, right? Is the cost going up? Yes, absolutely. We know all these things, right? So what can we do about that? So at the state level, there are 10 opportunities for counties for different type of funding opportunities, 10 tools in the toolbox. And I'm going to go through these, not all in great detail, but most of these you've seen or are familiar with. So capital project sales tax can be buildings, water, sewer, roads, and it has an 8-year term. Transportation, just roads, has a greenbelt component up to 25 years. Local option sales tax, this is a property tax rollback, but it has a capital revenue fund. I'll talk about that a little bit more later. Green space conservation, that one we're intimately familiar with. I forget how many years it is. Does anybody remember?
It was 2 years.
Yeah, but how long provision?
I can't remember.
It's either, I think it's 8 years that it can go up to.
I think it was 8 years.
I think it's similar.
I think that's how the way the law was written.
Meant to go back and put that number there. Education, and so there's 2 for school districts. So education capital, this funds capital improvements only, and school district funds operation only. So 2 different sales taxes, but for schools primarily. This one you don't see a lot of, the next 2. So there's 2 for property tax relief. Essentially, local property tax is against different property classes, and then the personal property tax is only against personal. So business and everything else still pays property. This would offset personal. You don't really see a lot of those, but those were some of the early ones that were in the 90s. And then there's a local option tourism fee. This one really was made for Myrtle Beach.
Yeah.
Essentially, if your county doesn't have more than, I think it's $15 million in A&H tax, state A&H tax, you don't even get the chance to have this fee. And then the fee is whatever's collected is specifically targeted for marketing to tourism outside of South Carolina. So essentially, Myrtle Beach is the only one that's really gunning for that anyhow. Yeah. Charleston may be at that point now. And then local A&H tax, it's a fee, but it's not a sales tax, but that is another tool in the toolbox. We have that as well as the municipalities. All right. What have we done specifically? So it depends what sports you play, whether you play baseball or basketball, but over the last 35 years, we are 4 for 12. So we're batting 3-3, or we're shooting pretty poorly from the field goal free throw line, whichever way you want to look at it. But you can see in the early 90s, right out the gate, as soon as it was offered, we did 2 runs at property tax relief. They both failed. We've done several transportation. We've done a couple capital projects. And I sent out some documents ahead of time just to get you guys oriented on some discussion. And the clerk's office helped put this together, but one of them is a history, if I can find it. can't find it, but I know you guys have it. Here it is.
Have it?
Yeah, we all have it.
It's a summary. It's a really good read that talks about the history of this, and it has the results and percentages, and it also has the specific projects. The one thing that I wasn't able to really figure out is a common denominator. I mean, some of them were very specific and failed. Some of them were generic and failed. Some of them were specific and passed. And the only common denominator is the only thing that we have passed is 3 transportation and 1 green space.
The capital never
Capital
passed.
has never passed.
And we
We've
never-
had 1 local option sales tax in '21. That was unsuccessful. And then obviously the property tax relief back in the early '90s. So that's what we've done as a county, our history. All right. So what are other people doing? So this is latest and greatest. Y'all have seen this before, but this is up to date as of March 1st. This will change again come May 1st because there were some referendums that got passed this past November. For example, Jasper County, they passed a transportation sales tax. That doesn't start collection until May 1st. So you can see Beaufort County is one of the 4 white-colored counties on this map, which represents we have 0 pennies that are being collected. Green space rolled off. So 6% is the standard. Then you can have 0 to 3, so anywhere from 6 to 9%. On the far end, you see 3 counties or 2 counties, Berkeley and Charleston, and then Myrtle Beach that have 3 pennies. Most everybody's in the 1 or 2 penny range. That, like I said, will change. Jasper County will have a 3rd penny, and I believe a couple others. Georgetown, they passed the capital projects, and a couple others got passed. The other thing to notice is the local option sales tax, the LO on the screen. So local option sales tax, a large majority of the counties throughout the state have that. And one thing that's different, and I'll talk about it, is it doesn't have the same type of sunset like the 8 years or 25 years. It stays on essentially until it's repealed, which is a challenging process. But
Several of the municipal governments mentioned they like the local option sales tax. Now,
Yes.
those were elected officials.
Well, and we'll talk about the advantages or disadvantages, because once we get to the project list, as Hank referenced, it really focuses down to 3, and we'll talk about that as transportation, capital, and local option really helps fund the need that we have in front of us. All right, so Hank, help us talk about some of these pictures and projects.
So it coincidentally fits with a lot of the things that we discussed we need. So this is administration building in the upper left. We've got courthouses or other government uses on the right. We've got fire stations. These are all have been built with capital project pennies. Go to the next one. Recreation centers, sports tourism facilities and fields have been built with capital pennies. Just to show you, these are the things that we talked about. We're not inventing the wheel. This is a real way to potentially do that.
All right, so capital project sales tax. This one has to have the commission that we've talked about. It's very specific. We actually set up last year, or I guess the year before, when we started transportation. We didn't know, we talked about capital or transportation and focused on transportation. We set our committee up as this in the same structure. So we have, there's a calculation. There's 3 from the county, then 1 from Hilton Head, and then 2 others from the municipalities. It's only on even years. It's up to 8 years, and then these are the things that it can be used. As Hank mentioned, you've got all these different building uses, cultural uses, recreational uses, water and sewer projects. So if we own a water or sewer company, you can do that. Even if we don't, I guess you could do that still. Beach access, that's a common thing you see on A&H tax is another use for beach access, but you can do it here in Capitol. And also highways, roads, and bridges. So you could do some projects, and some building projects and some road projects inside of this. But the limits is 8 years, and it has to be on an even year, a general election.
Can you explain why Hilton Head has 1 and then the others don't?
Yeah, so there is a formula specific to the statute that describes exactly how it's an index based off population. And so it's a percentage of the overall and if it's, I forget the exact calculation, but there's a calculation in there. And if you have 1 or greater, you get that. If you have less than a whole number of that appointed index, then it doesn't.
So that means 1 Hilton Head Island, then 2 appointed, I assume that says by, municipal member.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
So essentially, there's 3 for the county and 3 for the municipalities. And then the municipalities is based off of their population. Hilton Head's population it equals 1. And then because none of the other municipalities are as large as Hilton Head, they didn't equal that 1 number. So the other municipal representative selects the other 2 municipal representatives. So the county's not involved in municipal representatives. I know it's a little...
But Hilton Head can't put 3 on from Hilton Head.
Correct. They would have to be
That's
outside of Hilton Head, but because that's the only rep, if there was another town of the same size or greater than Hilton Head, it would be 1 from each, and then they would together appoint the 3rd municipal rep. But just the way our geography and population set up, that's the calculation.
Jared, before you move on, with the current rate, 6%, how much is collected for highways, roads, bridges every year, just at the normal tax that everybody pays?
0.
0.
Yeah, so 6% is all goes to the state. None of that goes towards DOT. DOT is funded solely by gas tax. Now, they have had a state apportionment every now and then from General Assembly. They'll ask for money, whether they get it or not, but they don't have any reoccurring funding. A lot of that is 5% was original, then I think Act 388 made the 6% that helps schools. So, but
all the 6% is actually schools, education.
That last penny, that 6 penny.
Yes.
So that's what makes those impact fees critical when things are for infrastructure, roads.
So the impact fees are county for development, and they're for specific uses, whether we have impact fees for EMS and schools and parks and recs, and different than sales tax. So.
Okay, I see stormwater facilities are on here. Does that mean we could take our stormwater fee dollars and use dollars from this to supplement it to?
You could. So if you have stormwater projects, so we have a stormwater user fee.
Right.
Not all counties do, but if they want to do a stormwater project, they could use sales tax to do a stormwater. We could do a stormwater. We could supplement it or add to.
Okay.
Yes. Yep. But these are all referenced in the statute, what can be used. Any questions on capital? All right, transportation. You guys are pretty familiar with this one. This one, again, only in even years. You do not have to have a commission. You can have one, but you do not have to have one. Its limit is up to 25 years, and then those are the uses: highways, roads, bridges, mass transit, and green belts.
Or green belts?
Green belts are essentially preservation. It doesn't define it in the statute. It just says green belt. So until somebody has a general opinion, attorney general opinion, we just say green belts.
I mean, but previously it's been used as like before the existence of the green space penny, it was kind of their offering.
Charleston has it.
Right, because the green belt was a portion of the money for transportation, kind of to balance out the building of the roads and congestion.
For us, it's kind of rural and critical or green space. They're kind of cousins. All right. And local option sales tax. So this one, like I said, is a property tax relief, but then it has a revenue fund that goes to the municipalities. This one's kind of complicated. It's complicated for me to explain, and then for us to put our heads around it and explain it to the average citizen, it's a challenge. So for this to be successful, it's there's a big need for education on this one. And I'll do my best to explain it to you guys, and it'll still be a little muddy when I do the explanation. So we'll go through it here together.
In our documentation, the local option sales tax has everything wrong.
That's correct.
Right.
Yeah, we noticed that today. So I have 3 or 4 slides that are not in your handout because I noticed we did a copy and paste, so I apologize for that. So here we go. So now everybody's got to pay attention up here to the screen. So I've got everybody's focused attention. Man, I should have did that on purpose. Next time, I'll remember that. All right, so listen, this is 71%. So you collect, let's go to the next slide. All right. So this example is you collect $100,000 in tax. 71% goes towards rolling back property taxes. So essentially, you say we have a $100 million is our budget. It rolls back. That's not the quite number, but it would roll back 71. You would still have a budget of $100 million, but 71% of it would be paid by sales tax. That's not the actual number. This is just a percentage.
I'll throw in a word. Rollback seems like a reduction in millage. It's not. Your millage collected is still the same amount collected, but on an individual taxpayer tax bill, you are credited a portion of your payment of what it lowers a bill. It doesn't necessarily affect our budget with that portion.
Yeah, so your county budget is the same. The taxpayer sees it as a credit on their tax bill.
People will never get that.
Right.
Well, 35 other counties got it at some point in time. It's just a matter of explaining. I don't know. It's challenging. All right, but so 71% goes to rolling back taxes, property taxes. And then 29% goes to a revenue fund that's split between the county and municipalities to use for projects. Inside of the statute doesn't give clear direction what projects are. So can it be road projects? Can it be building projects? It doesn't necessarily say. It just says capital revenue fund.
But it's divided by formula.
Well, so here's the formula. This is where it gets even more complicated. All right. So just think you got $100,000 in your head for the tax, 71%. We're going to go to the 71%. On that side of the equation, 67% of that 71% goes to the county, 33% goes to the municipalities. All right. So
how is that? That's just in the
all this is written into the statute.
Okay.
It's clear as mud.
Okay.
But it's defined, and I'll have a slide at the very end that shows we actually asked DOR for what that would be for us, and I have an example of that to make more sense at the end. All right. So 71% of that rollback, most of it's seen, 2/3 of it's seen on county property tax, and then the others seen on municipal. On the other side, on the revenue, the capital project, 29%, it's split up by population and by where the sales are collected. It's a weird ratio. But essentially, you see the 2-part ratio for the county. The county is y'all help me with the colors, the greenish color maybe, a yellow, whatever. And so it's 67% based off where it's collected, and then 50% based off population, and then the municipal is the opposite side of that. So when you add all these 16,000 and 12,000 and the last slide, it all adds back up to the 100,000, all right? So let's look what that looks like for us. So we asked, this is a 1.5 years ago, and I'm sorry it's a little fuzzy. We asked DOR, what would this look like for Beaufort County? And they said, based off our previous collection at the time, they fast forwarded it and said that they're estimating $75 million in this fiscal year 25-26 tax that we would collect in the capital. And then out of that, this is the number. So right here, $33 million out of 75 would go back to rolling back property tax. So if we had $100 million of budget, our budget would still be $100 million, but on the tax bill, $33 million would be in the form of a credit back to the taxpayer. And then we would have $9 million out of the 29% that would go towards us to be expended on projects. And then each municipality would have an equitable share based off the formulas, and you can see that all the way down. And so when you add all these costs together, it equals the $75 million. And DOR does all the calculations. They collect all the data, and then they send 2 checks back to the county, one for disbursement of the property tax credit and one for the revenue, and then it goes to the municipalities.
And for clarification, the withheld is withheld by the state.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a
Cost of doing
withholding.
business.
There's a withholding if you collect more than $5 million. There's a not Peter Pan. There's a I'm getting my characters messed up. Stealing from the rich to pay the poor. Robin Hood.
Yeah.
Sorry.
They have a bigger withholding from the larger
Yeah,
collectives.
so if you have more than $5 million in sales tax, they take 5% and spread it across the state to the other counties. Robin Hood account. All right, that's capital projects. So it's convoluted. What you really get to is you're rolling back property tax and you get a smaller amount to do projects with. So if this example was capital projects or transportation, you would have the full $75 million to do projects. In this scenario, the county has 9 and the municipalities have each of this amount.
And there's less restrictions on that money.
There's less restrictions, so it doesn't say what you can or can't use it on. It just says capital projects in general. So whatever you classify capital project, I suggest is appropriate. All right. So, Hank, this is probably you and Mike to help finish this up, but essentially where we need to get to is discussion. You guys, what's of interest? What do you want to look at? Different things like that.
Go back to the loss. Out of $73 million collected, Beaufort County would get $9 million.
Yep.
That doesn't, yeah.
The residents would get that credit. Right.
The residents would see this credit, and then the county would see this for projects, and then
And the reduction of their tax bill.
Right.
I got that part,
Yep.
yeah. But through all of that, yeah, I
It
can.
yields less for the project.
You use less for projects and stuff that we.
But you have it every year, and it doesn't go away.
well, that's right.
See, that's what you weigh.
Trade-off.
That's the trade-off, is you're going to get a smaller amount, but it's a steady income until it is repealed. Can you do the projects? You can do some, but, we have some projects that are going to be so god-awful expensive, it's going to take
Another way to look at
several
that,
years to do them.
if you have $33 million off of your budget, not that you're suggesting, and I'm suggesting this, but then I'm not even going to say that.
I think, can you go back to your map with the colors and all the counties?
Can we take a short break? Yeah, 5 minutes
Before discussion.
before we,
Oh, break. I'm just kidding.
all right. 5-minute break?
Yeah, go ahead.
33.
Go to the,
Jerry, while
I'll set
you
a
up
timer.
there, stop at, they're taking a break, but stop at, oh man, with that slide that you had on there with,
Yeah. I'll forget it.
Use the one in the hallway because Who's going to start? We never adjourn, we just took a break.
Discussion time of, I don't think you need to make a final decision of which one you want to absolutely execute today, but we just need direction on which one do you want us to bring, do you want us to bring back more information in a follow-up workshop to really move forward with some form of revenue collection? I think we all know that we have a bunch of projects that have no money.
Okay, you want to start?
Yep. The most logical one is the capital project sales tax. It serves the needs of the community, as it said, highways, roads, bridges, courthouses, administration buildings, our universities, our jails, libraries, cultural. We can do it all. I want to say it the right way. When we put together a referendum that was changed to green space, that group of people said, we need at least 10 years to do the road systems that we need, and $700 million. Then that jumped to 15 years and $1.6 billion. We still don't have the roads fixed. And it's going to take a long time to fix the roads. And yet, all of the capital projects that we need have to be done as well. This is the opportunity for us to do both of them.
Can we add preservation? I guess, according to what I read, I guess we can, to capital of land preservation.
I believe it can be.
It's not listed, but I wonder if there's a way.
Well, we can look more into that. If council, it sounds like if there is consensus to do capital, we'll come back with more detail.
Because I think that would help.
Yeah, we can research that.
I have so many constituents just now realizing that there's no more green space, there's no more rural and critical lands, and they're upset about it.
Really?
Yeah. They didn't understand that they were going away. So, but they just like preservation somehow. So maybe that's in the form of
More
parks.
green spaces. We'll look at that.
And not call it green space. Yeah, maybe.
Preservation.
Preservation of some kind. Other comments?
I think it would be more in the form of a passive park, because that's what a capital project would be, the park.
Yeah.
So that could, how you potentially could couple it together, but we'd have to look
Improvements
into
to the
that.
existing passive parks, because we own a lot of land.
That would give funding to construct the plans that we've had and not constructed yet on the land that we've acquired with green space dollars.
Or acquire land to create the passive park.
So at this point, I'm just going to revert us back just a little bit. We asked to have a list of all land we own and to look at what we want to do with it or sell it off. And I also want to comment, I'd like a list of our passive parks, all of them, because we've invested heavily in just the 2 years I'm on here in passive parks, but not in recreational facilities south of the Broad. So I'm going to bring that up again.
Right. I'll give you a status on the property list. As I told you in this planning session, we've started over, and I worked with Ebony, and she gave me an extensive list. And as opposed to some, I've read through a lot of the other reports about properties. So myself and Audra are digging actually parcel by parcel to confirm, is that a right-of-way? Is that a piece of land that's of size? And then if it's a piece of land that is of size, is it something that was purchased with rural and critical? Does it have deed restrictions? And so we're halfway through that list already, and it's been tedious, but it's actually kind of a fun educational process, and it will give you guys a good list.
That's necessary, but we have to decide, and we have to decide soon, because as you said, time marches on. November of 2026 comes rather quickly. And when you do the timeline beforehand, at least 90 days before that is when you're sending the finals to the state and the Board of Elections. So that doesn't leave us a lot of time.
Right. Mike's got a good timeline for you.
Before we answer about timeline, is there anyone here around the table think we should wait till 28?
28?
No.
2028.
No.
That's an option.
They can wait till 20.
Okay, I don't hear anyone saying that's an option.
Listen,
Okay.
it may not be an option, but, we still answer to the people. And they're going to, how this is done and how we do with the 2018 projects. I mean, I think we have a great start. I think this is a fantastic meeting just for that alone. But to put out another tax out there, the people are going to answer that question.
Right.
And that's okay, that's part of the process, but I think it's our obligation to decide what do we need and what do we want to put before the people, and then democracy works its thing. If they don't want it, then they'll tell us no. But I think it's not responsible of us not to put things forward.
Right, I agree.
And if we're going to talk about capital, I agree with Joe. The capital penny allows you wide berth to do a lot of things. And I think that really might help our community to understand a little better that we're not only talking about roads. A lot of people think the state should do the roads, the Fed should do the roads. They don't understand like we just talked here. So this would allow us maybe to do the law enforcement center, help the college, do sports facilities that would generate tax. I mean, there's a lot in here, capital penny. So I would agree with Joe on that.
And I was just going to point out, when you establish the commission by resolution, you can also task the commission to look at some or all of these potentially for projects. Obviously, you're going to be limited by how much money you can collect over the period of the tax, but that's also something to consider.
Prioritization.
Exactly.
There's one, I'd like Gerald to comment. I remember the last capital sales, it became too much of a long list of everybody wanting everything. And that's, we've got to focus it. Do you remember, Gerald? I mean, it was a disaster.
Not only that, I think the fact that folks, the public, feared more of the local option sale tax not ending, and they didn't like that aspect of it. And so I think us trying to put a loss to the community now, I don't see us
We're not talking about lost.
capital.
Capital
Capital,
projects.
brother.
It's not lost.
Okay, I thought you were talking local option sale tax.
No.
Okay, all right. Well,
I'm going with, go ahead, finish.
no, to me, it doesn't really matter whether we go the penny sale tax or the capital sales tax. Our problem is educating the public, and I know we're developing and going forward now with putting a commission together to actually help us in that process. That might be the answer, but the capital sales tax, if we can get the public to understand the that are in need, the necessity of the projects that we have listed, then they might be supportive. I don't know. I'm apprehensive about taking anything to the public right now, and I'll be honest with you. Rather it's capital, lost, or even a 1 cent sale tax. I mean, the atmosphere out there right now is just not favorable for a tax.
To your point, I'm not saying, I hear educate and the public to understand. I think these people are smarter than many, me. I don't think we have to educate them. I think we have to show them that we actually do what we say we're going to do. That's proof pudding. That's positive. I mean, is there a project that was on the list for 7 years that's not been done? That's pretty basic to understand. It's not getting done. If we do the work that the people, we promise the people, that's right. What do we have to educate them on?
Well, but I think moving on the 2018 referendum, that was the point. Get these done, show that, all the other stuff is behind us now. Yeah. But get these done. The bridge is going to move forward, albeit not till 2027, but it's still going to move forward. And then I think somebody mentioned, I think Mr. Moore, we need specifics. So we can't just say, we're going to build a sports facility. We need to talk about where it would be, what it would be, why we're going to do it. Otherwise, people they're just not interested in generalities.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point. I think, where I was before, the projects were very specific, and we actually had done cost estimating on those projects so that you had hard numbers when you went to the referendum to say, this is the specific project, road widening from point A to point B, it's going to cost $20 million. And there was a whole list of them. And so I think Hank's looked at other counties too, and I think the specificity and the rigor in cost estimating is also going to matter, because I do think the people that vote look at that. Are the numbers credible?
They're all over it, yeah.
Right.
I think your point is well taken. I think one of the comments Edie Rogers made to me was just that there was not specificity to the referendum.
I think that's the difference in the capital project sales tax versus a kind of transportation, because we had more ranges and targets. Capital project sales tax, and this is the reason why the commission needs to be established early, is because you have to give us and the municipalities and areas of the community time to put forth. They're not just going to say we want a rec center. They're going to say we would like performing arts in, like Bluffton could say we want a performing arts center, and it would be right here, and this is what it looks like, and this is the cost estimate. We already have it designed at 15-20%. And that goes to that commission, and the commission vets all those, and it does this, as Mike showed in York. We wouldn't just be here having people come to county. You would hold meetings in all these places, and that's where that time, even though technically you just have to have projects on the list by a certain date, we really would need to start this summer and get in that commission so that they can give municipalities and us time to bring projects. It's basically auditioning for the commission.
Right, and it's
Was that a capital project?
That's capital projects.
Yeah.
Capital project.
Not a transportation.
right. Right.
Yeah, York did a capital project, but it was all roads, but it was under the veil of capital.
York County has used their capital sales tax just for transportation projects.
And Florence County, for example, did a capital project sales tax, but municipalities they mostly buildings and facilities, and then the county used it for rural fire stations and roads.
But that's
Could be a
direction.
combination of
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But that's direction council can provide to the commission as to what projects you would want them to consider.
or not consider.
Or not, exactly.
I'm not into a wish list by people and then having to take it off. I think we need to limit, if you're going to do the capital. I like transportation because we had success with transportation. That's the only ones we have passed is the transportation sales tax. We have never passed the capital projects, and we've never passed the loss. So if we go to the capital, I think we should do what Mr. Moore said, limit that to target specific projects and not a gambit of things and stuff, because I think you start putting the gambit of things and stuff.
I envision that. In 2018, when we passed the referendum, we had 3 buckets, but unfortunately, one of those buckets, the pathways, had 24 pieces to it. That was way too much.
Oh, sure.
I believe that this time around, you may see certain road projects or a road project, because we have major roads that need work.
One of the comments that I would make is that on the loss that we did in 21, it had a lot of projects on there for capital projects out of different municipalities and stuff, and it just got. But I think loss will get defeated anyway. So anyway, yeah.
No, again, capital projects is the answer because it covers everything we need.
And
From us,
the last thing I was just going to say, you can also in transportation look at, you can do widenings, intersection improvements. You can also do resurfacing. So
like the intersection at Ladies Island and Reebok Road.
Right.
Yeah.
Or if
it's very specific.
the towns need resurfacing of their roads, that could be part of this,
part of it.
of the capital sales tax referendum.
What do you need from us before we have our next workshop?
I think what we're hearing is you would like us to look more at a capital sales tax, to come back with some more details and some thoughts on perhaps what direction you would provide to a commission were we to go forward with a capital sales tax, if that's what I'm hearing, unless there's any
Any comments?
I have one comment to make. I like the capital as well, but for ballparks, rec centers, because St. Helena has been asking for a rec center for quite some time now, and I feel that they need a rec center out there because, we have one in Bluffton and Hilton Head and Burton. Ballparks, Logan's been talking about this for years, and the law enforcement center needs to be done.
Those all
I
fit
think
right in
those-
the capital.
Those are my priorities. I'm going to get into a conversation with Senator Davis because we talked about this before. I don't feel that Beaufort County taxpayer should be paying for state roads. That's the state's responsibility. And the bridge is like someone else said, gasoline sales tax. Let the gasoline sales tax for the bridge, not Beaufort County residents. I'm sorry, but that's the way I feel. And I'm not
agree with you.
backing down. And when I ever get a chance to sit down with Tom Davis, I'm going to talk to him about it. I'll have a long conversation.
I agree with you 100% that the state roads are their responsibility. But
Yeah.
if we sit here and wait for the state to do something, it ain't going to happen.
Well, the governor will be replaced in 2 years, so
It ain't going to happen.
this,
Legislators
and 2
are not.
years.
Right, you're right.
Legislators are not going to.
It's been this way
for years.
for years.
Yeah.
Other states do it differently. We, in South Carolina, don't do it that way. So we live with that.
Do we pay
Even to the point that the state gave us, we increased the gasoline tax, 12 cents per gallon?
Yeah.
And then the
Is that
state
what it
give us
was?
money and tell us,
Yeah.
part of that got to go to state roads,
Right.
which makes no sense. But,
Right,
yeah.
exactly. The bridges.
Right.
Okay, anything else we need?
We're good. Do you need anything
New
else?
governor in 2 years.
Anyone else?
I think we have direction we need.
Is there criteria for people to serve on this 6-member commission?
We need to come up with criteria.
There is nothing like says these are guidelines.
The statutes only
The
says,
only criteria,
We will determine the 3 representatives from
No, I
unincorporated.
understand that. I'm saying when we ask people to apply for this, would we have some, like we do with green space, we're going to have some criteria. I don't just want people to randomly say, yep, I want to be on that commission. Is there any specific criteria for them to
The
serve?
legislation.
Yeah.
the statutes, no, it's just county or municipality. I know from working in other places, what's been successful is to place members on the committee that are kind of like our previous committee that becomes the spokes group of
Correct.
the work product that they present to council. That's
right.
And if they're well renowned within the community, that serves the process well.
Okay. So we can give guidance to municipalities. We can't tell them we can't tell Hilton Head who to appoint, obviously, but we can have our own guidance on it. Okay.
So we're going with would like you to bring information on the capital penny.
Yes.
And you
Yeah.
were going to bring a timeline.
yes.
Right.
26,
Okay.
yeah.
Yes.
That'd be
Also
helpful.
bring a process to that as well. I mean, when I say process, how we can unfold that to the public, because the 6-member commission, I don't want that to be the sole group to basically decide. I think we need to have decentralized input for various communities.
Yeah, and that's what when I went through this in my last position, the commission went to all the municipalities and specific areas in the county, which we could do this time. But I think you need to give the commission direction as to what type of projects they would consider. And then, for example, the city could come to the commission with a list of here's priorities for this area, for the town of Hilton Head, for the city of Beaufort. And then it would be up to the commission, though, to decide amongst all these different type of projects.
In unincorporated areas.
Unincorporated and inside the incorporated, because it's a countywide tax, so yes.
And then they propose at the end of the process, after all these meetings and vetting and voting and making their list, it comes to county council for final approval. In most cases, because they chose the right people, because they were a cross-section, because they had clear criteria of what type of projects, the county council in most scenarios says that's a good list.
And at the next meeting, you'll have a draft reverse timeline? Okay.
And there are we'll have a recommendation, right? Because if we looked at the York version, they started a year ago.
Yeah.
But there are some that have been successful and shorter. We're going to come with best practices gathered from multiple counties.
But I think what's important to know is which areas in the unincorporated portions of the county we would want to go to solicit input.
And you need that from all of us.
I think that would be helpful to know where council would think we'd need to go. Obviously, the town, municipalities, that's pretty clear. We would go to them, but then in the unincorporated areas, where all should we consider projects?
Okay.
Or the commission would solicit inputs.
So we need to get that to you.
Right. And the clarification of priorities and the consensus built at these meetings is what makes the text eventually successful, because it shows collaboration and inputting. If somebody wants to say an input.
Yeah, we haven't called on Larry.
Sorry, I didn't look in the
Larry.
screen.
Sorry.
Sorry, Larry. I apologize.
What's that?
Input from
We're
you?
ignoring you.
We're not ignoring you. You have some input?
Oh, well, yeah, a brief one. I think if you take the macro view, everyone in America now has a clear understanding of the deficiencies that have been pushed off for a number of years with regard to all of the categories that would fall under the umbrella of capital expense, particularly in roads and bridges. I don't think South Carolina or the people of Beaufort County are any different. They have that view as well, focused in their own community, because I hear it all the time from people about how bad the roads are, generally the things that they use almost on a daily basis. They're not happy with the condition of them. And if you were to look even further in the international arena, I mean, the European Union is now struggling with the same thing, and I look at Germany, they're going to float a bond issue for $1 trillion because they've been neglecting everything for so long. So it's a worldwide issue, and on a micro view, I think everybody really realizes it. The question becomes, and I think everyone stated it, what can we do to ensure that people understand what we're doing? And I think you have to identify the projects. I think, the community center in Ladies Island is a priority, for me anyway. I mean, you can identify it and then put a price tag on it. And all the other things that you're going to do in all the different municipalities and in the unincorporated areas have to be identified. We're going to have to do some price estimates on it. You're just giving a number. And I wanted to get to that. What's the number? How long are we going to do this, and what's the goal? I didn't hear anything about that.
If it was,
come up with a total.
If it was
about that adds up to all the things we've
right,
and then of course have some flexibility for other things that we didn't identify that may need some attention. But I didn't hear how long we would do this or what the.
If it was for 8 years at our basic tax collection.
Yeah, right now we're about 75 million. Per year, annual, roughly, and over 8 years that would collect up to 750 million, because it grows each year a little bit.
5 years.
We can go and dice it up into different.
I think the public would go for 5.
Yeah, so if you want to do 1 year, 2 year, you can have any increment you want. We can bring back that information.
Maximum's 8 years.
But maximum is 8
for capital.
Okay. Oh,
But roughly, just Mr. McKellen, as a bookend, about 700 and 750 would be max in this program with our current take rate.
Well, 8 of us are going to be running for office in 2026.
It's a significant number on one hand, but just fixing the roads.
That could be
an
election.
I mean, I think that, I don't know what a community center would cost. I don't know what repairs to other things would cost that we have neglected in the county for quite some time. And there's a lot of those things. But, I mean, get what you can get done, make the priority stand, and get the most important work done. If $700 million is the answer, then that's what we should aim for. And then if things can, listen, it's like painting a bridge. Once you get it done, you have to start it over again. You just can't stop maintenance on these things. So I suppose that the people who have these things going out for longer periods of time, or that have maybe 3 penny taxes, are doing it the smart way. But I don't think we'd ever get away with it here. Particularly if the economic situation doesn't improve here sometime soon, there's going to be a lot of unhappy people going to the poll booths. You know what I mean? It's not going to be polling stations. It's not going to be easy in 26 if this, what's going on now continues into that period of time.
Thank you.
Thanks for the invitation.
I'm sorry we didn't recognize you earlier. I think
I'm in the room somewhere.
I think we've given you what you need.
I think we're good. I think we can go back and do some staff
And
work and
schedule
come
the
back
next
to you
meeting?
all. Yes.
All right. Do I have a motion to?
That would be another workshop.
Another workshop.
Yes, that would be our thought,
To
is
get
come back
ready
in a
for the
workshop.
resolution.
Okay.
All right. Do I entertain a motion
I'll
to
make a
adjourn?
motion to adjourn.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Without objection, we are adjourned. Oh, you're going to object?
Yeah, I'm having fun. I'm having fun.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you.